Hi there guys, we've just had a couple of problems. Welcome to this live stream of deep dive analysis of the SpaceX SN9 test flight. I'm joined today by the host of Deep Dive, Miko, and I believe Cyclonics is also going to be joining us for today's analysis.
Hello.
Yeah, hello, I'm Mikko, the host of Deep Dive Fridays.
I am Cyclonics. I do a lot of graphical design on the Angry Astronaut channel.
Alright, so let's get started. Would you play the video so we can comment on it?
Yes.
So at first we had quite a bit of delay because there was some range violation before the flight, but I think SpaceX got it solved quite quick. So yeah. How did you guys... Sorry?
So we waited quite a while, and then there was some concern about 20 minutes before the route to go that there may have been a range violation. It didn't hold too much in the way. We still got to see a fairly quick set of events, I feel.
Yeah, for sure. And if we skip a bit ahead, the flight to up was quite smooth, and I think it was smoother than SN8 flight.
T-minus 2 minutes, continuing to count down on the flight of... Next event is retract.
And it was very nice to hear the voice of John Innsbrucker on the Starship stream.
I agree. I really like that shot. I know you said...
He's the legendary host.
I really liked seeing two starships there.
Your audio isn't coming through.
I really liked seeing two starships side by side like that. I think it really shows the progression and SpaceX
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
yeah, absolutely.
4,
I mean,
3,
they have another
2,
ship waiting
1.
Waiting to go after SN9 exploded. Yeah, the liftoff was very smooth. I think even a bit slower than with SN8. Could be due to the flight being a couple of kilometers slower.
Flight Club posted some data on Twitter earlier today. I don't think we can show that, but I can definitely say that if you check Flight Club out on Twitter, they've shown a screenshot comparing both SN8 and SN9 flight profiles.
I have to say they did a lot better job with the live stream this time compared to SN8. The different camera angles are very appreciated.
Yeah, I think the live stream had good sides and bad sides. There was a couple of problems with the cameras. I think on the engine cam didn't show anything after this on the video now, and there was also a problem with the flap cam when they were coming down. But it was nice to have some commentary on the video.
I agree. It was. I think we saw some quite unique camera angles this time round as well, like the pad cam. We got to see a really nice close shot of the SN9 coming in by the pad cam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And a while ago we saw the first engine out. So the first engine was turned off as expected, just as with the SN8 flight. And too bad we didn't see the engine cam while it shut down. That was a good part about the SN8 stream, we saw all the engine outs on the engine cam.
I think they had a lot of issues. I know several people complained of camera feeds being lost and the entire YouTube stream being lost to some. I feel they probably could have done a better job of the camera work, but you know, at the same time, considering the amazing achievement that they're making on an almost weekly basis down there in Boca Chica, cameras aren't the worst.
Yeah, I mean, SpaceX does have the best camera views of all, so I think with the test flights it's not that important. Of course we want to see it, but with this stream I think even some non-official SpaceX sources had maybe even better views. For example, lab address and SP address views showed quite nicely the big explosion in the end.
Yeah, I think NASA spaceflight had a really nice view of the failed landing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. With the SpaceX stream, we didn't really see much.
I think we're just incredibly lucky we've got so many different content creators all so interested in this, and they're all willing to go down there and record this for us.
Yeah, I agree completely. And with the flight, we've already had the second engine shut down, so it's now flying with the single engine. And soon we will see the flip maneuver where it gives a little push with the engine, so the Starship will turn sideways and start the horizontal landing. And this time there was quite a bit of tilt. I was a bit afraid that the Starship actually would turn too much and wouldn't make it, but yeah, the flaps did their job quite nicely.
Yeah, it almost went into a nosedive there.
Yeah, exactly.
It defies everything we know about rockets. We're used to saying pointy end up, flamey end down. And both SN8 and SN9 have had pointy end down and flamey end up at one point.
Yeah, pretty much. And the downfall looked very well controlled, just like with SN8. I didn't really see any problems except the camera that got the feed. And yeah, the view from the launch pad is great.
I agree. What would you say is the best part about this entire maneuver?
Well, I think the belly flop to landing maneuver in the end. Yeah.
I think it was interesting how the vehicle tried to stabilize itself only with one engine, as we'll see pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah, and it comes down so slowly. It's like, doesn't look even realistic.
It's graceful and it just...
Yeah.
It's so graceful on its way down that it's almost unfathomable that this thing's 12 stories high. You know, anybody viewing, go to your local city and find a 12-story building, and that's the size of these starships. So to see it act so gracefully and so precise past landing, it's incredible.
Yeah, even though they have exploded 2 ships, I'm still quite surprised they got both pretty much on the landing pad.
Do we know how close it was to the landing pad? If it was exactly on it, that is?
No, not with this one, I think. I think we will see more footage today when the road opens and people actually come take photos.
I know RGV Aerial Photography did post a picture from the sky after yesterday's attempt, and I would say they were almost on par with where they were supposed to land. I think they landed wrong and slightly out the way, but it was a pretty good attempt nevertheless, considering it's just something that's pioneering and brand new to the rocket industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems the failure for this flight was the engine that kind of looked like it failed to ignite. So with the landing maneuver, first engine seemed like it lit up just fine, and then the second engine, well, there was some flames and didn't produce any thrust, so SN9 came in pretty hard to the ground. SN8 was much slower.
So this wasn't the same problem they had with the last one, if I remember. It was the last one, they had like a starved engine, and this seems like it just couldn't ignite in the first place.
Yeah, SN8 had problems with the methane header tank, so it was very oxygen rich, eating up the engine. With this one, yeah, it totally seemed like the engine failed to ignite. It's not the first time SpaceX is having problems igniting the engines. There's been quite a few static fires where they just can't fire the engine. But at least there was some fire, so could be that the engine even exploded or there was some kind of, well, something may have broken in the engine.
When I was just looking back frame by frame, then you can see something jump out the bottom.
Yeah, I think there was at least two pieces that come out of the Starship. I have no idea what they are. They kind of seem like there was maybe even the landing legs at the places where they came off, but it could be something related to the engines and the problems with those.
I mean, the Raptor engine is the world's first full floor stage combustion engine, so there's always going to be issues once again when you're pioneering products. You know, when Henry Ford was first producing the Model T, you know, how many problems did the first Model T have? You know, he was a pioneer. You know, although they're not new to the rocket industry and rockets are by no means new, this technology and this approach of doing rocketry is new.
Yeah, and I'm actually quite surprised that the Raptor engines seem to be in such good condition that they can, once they ignite, they seem to be running well, and both flights had no problems going up, only with the landing. And I don't think the problem this time was with the tank pressures, because SpaceX really has to know how to use helium when they have used it with Falcon 9 for about a decade. So, go ahead.
Go ahead, Miko.
I was just going to ask, what are your predictions? When will SN10 fly?
I would say we just need engines on it. Within a couple of weeks, I would say some static fires would need to be performed, wet dress rehearsal maybe. But I'd optimistically, and it is optimistically, say within 14 days, as little as 14 days, we could see it fly. How about you guys?
Yeah, I'm probably not as optimistic. I think probably given that it landed so close to the pad and with way more momentum than SN8, chances are the damage is going to take a bit longer to fix up. So I'm guessing at least a month before we see it take flight.
Yeah, I'm with you two both. Something between 2 and up to 6 weeks. Because I don't know if you noticed that tweet by Eric Berger today. He mentioned that FAA had commented this already, and they will investigate this crash just like SN8. But the problems with SN8 are not a problem anymore, and they did mention this flight was already safer than the previous flight. So I think the FAA investigation could last a couple of weeks maybe, and they will probably tell SpaceX to even do something more with the safety.
Yeah, that long view just after this, see if we can find any like pieces of shrapnel flying away. No, because that was what we were doing for SN8. Trying to see if anything could have traveled 4 kilometers or whatever.
Well, it's possible, of course, but that's why the whole area was evacuated. I don't know what was the closest non-evacuated point. Was it kilometers or not? But yeah, just to be on the safe side, it's always good to do some investigation to see how this goes. But as we can see, they have already landed twice on the pad, so the damage to outside SpaceX facilities, I think it's minimal in every case.
I think the thing is, both times it looks like it's flipped too late. You know, when you look back at both SN8 and SN9, I said originally with SN8, after speaking with Jetson guy who put me onto it, he said it looked like it was about 5 seconds too late in flipping, doing the belly flop to upright maneuver. And then it looks the same with SpaceX again today with the yesterday with the SN9.
I do think it would be possible to use just this timing, but if they actually have the full thrust of the engine all the way down, they could probably do the landing right. If they started too early, they may have some problems with too high thrust when the Starship is getting empty, maybe.
Oh, I see. Let's get cameras up.
I mean, it's an interesting thought to see that so many people are documenting this, as Cyclonic said earlier. You know, there's no end of people. There's like Padre and Mary and Maria and Maruscio
As you can see from the scene,
Coop and Austin Bernard and all these other people that are going down and spending their days in the blazing Texas heat to be able to document the history for us.
The subsonic re-entry looked very good and stable.
Yeah, we are eternally grateful to all of them, so we can watch along with them.
And of course, I didn't mention Padre G, who is, you know, he's doing things like helping sheriffs clear the water of fishing boats and providing high quality live streams as well. Just this entire community that's grown around it, really, it's exciting to see, and we get to share moments like that together, where we get to watch a rocket blow up.
Thanks for logging on and watching, and
Yeah.
we'll be back with another Starship in the near future.
Is it night at Boca Chica now? If we would take a look at the Espadre stream.
Nearly 7 a.m. there.
Yeah, of course
I
you can.
believe.
Just give me 2 seconds to quickly throw it in there.
I was thinking if we can see the bat or what happened there.
Just give me
Okay,
2
so-
seconds. I apologise. I wasn't intending on putting the Espadre stream on today.
No worries. And while you are doing that, I can look up the chat. Con Giggle is saying, wouldn't you guys think it would be a safer landing profile with Starship not over-rotating? It gets from horizontal to vertical, but it rotated further this time and last time. Why? Yeah, I agree. It would be a good idea. The reason why it over-rotated was the one engine couldn't counter-rotate it back. So it would have needed the thrust of the 2 engines to get it to vertical position again. So I think that's my conclusion. And there's also another question. You would say you could in theory flip a few hundred meters higher. They can land with just one engine, right? They tried it with earlier prototypes. Yeah, they have done it with earlier prototypes and they sure can do it. I think the thrust of the Raptor engine is around 200 tons and Starship without any fuel is around 120 tons. So even with a small fuel load, it won't be too much. So yeah, they can do it with one engine. They don't have to do a suicide burn just like with Falcon 9. So they could like a hover landing like the Blue Origin's New Shepard does. But it does take a lot more fuel to do that.
Sorry, I apologise. I'm playing Rocky all of a sudden.
No worries.
What do you two think about having SN10 so close to the landing site?
Well, I think it was a bit risky, since if some debris would have flown on SN10, it could have been damaged. Or even the shockwave from the explosion could have done something to it, so we don't really know if it's okay or not. I mean, it looks okay, but yeah, I think it was like a statement from SpaceX because they couldn't fly last week. They wanted to show that they have another ship on the line, so it's not them.
And there's not very
Yeah,
much going on down there now. It is night time. Boca Chica still early morning.
Yeah. SN10 still seems to be standing. But yeah, I think we might not see 2 Starships on the launch pad for a while. Because SN11 isn't ready yet.
I mean, not only that, you're playing close to the wind when you're putting hardware so close to each other. And this is the outcome twice in a row.
Yeah. I mean, let's say Starhopper and SN 7.2 test tank, those don't really have any effect on the flights, but the SN10, it was a bit risky move, I think. But I think SpaceX trusted themselves to be able to at least aim to the pad, if not land.
I was discussing with some other people that maybe having SN10 so close to the landing site is some kind of test, as if this was like a spaceport down the line. It could be a test of seeing how, or maybe a few fragments hitting it as such, they could test repairing the vehicle.
I mean, it could have been some kind of test, but I don't think they would have wanted intentionally to damage the vehicle. I mean, both with SN8 and SN9, they've had to do some fixes because one of the SN8's static fires damaged the Starship or the engines or plumbing, whatever it was. That took a couple of weeks. And with SN9, well, its name Eileen came from that it leaned to the wall under the high bay building. And I think it did need some kind of fixing after that.
It's lucky it had the fins. They seem to be like a bit of a buffer for the vehicle.
Yeah, I agree. But this does show that their vehicles are actually quite durable and fixable. I mean, if Falcon 9 would tip over, I'm not sure if they would be flying after that.
No.
So,
Just reading the
predictions
chat.
for SN10, guys. Do we think it's going to land? We tried to give predictions after SN8 on what SN9 would do. What are your predictions for SN10? Where do you think it will go wrong? Do you think it's going to nail it?
Would you go first, Cyclonics?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm probably just gonna change my prediction for SN9 and make it my SN10 one. I'll say it it does its flip burn, legs deploy, but it has just a bit too much momentum and ends up a bit similar to SN8, bit closer to landing, but just not close enough.
Yeah. I think SN10 could be the real deal, actually nailing the landing. I'm not sure if they will use helium to pressurize the tanks. If they do, then if the engines work, I think they could do the landing. But if they try to go back to autogenous pressurization system, there could be some more problems with the tank's pressure. How about yourself?
I'd like to be optimistic and say I think they're going to nail the landing, but I think I said that to everybody for the last few weeks since SN8. I'm like, yeah, it was a minor issue. They'll fix it. They'll nail SN9's landing. And I mean, hammer and nail seems appropriate.
Yeah. Again, in the chat, Kern Giegel is saying if you flip at a higher amplitude and one of the engines doesn't light up, you could start the other engine. Yeah, I agree with that. At least with humans flying, it would be a good idea to have some safety. But with these test flights, I think it's a good idea to have everything working just like they are trying to do it. But yeah, I think they should be trying the earlier burn of the engines.
I am unsure of what the issue is. I know that usually across today, Cohen, we would expect to see more data come from SpaceX and more speculation come from the community and and things like that. There's people that got really, really good footage, like EDA and the like, or use tracking cameras. So, you know, as the day goes on, I would say it would be worth floating around on Twitter and see what the Twitterverse comes up with.
Yeah, and reading the chat, the Astrogunner, yeah, I do think also that the SpaceX is a bit disappointed after SN9 flight. I think they expected a landing. And for the orbital, I'm still saying SN15.
Which serial numbers got scrapped? Is it 11 and 12?
I think 12 and 13. I'm not sure
Okay.
about 14 either.
Some design change happening there?
Yeah, I think SN15 has quite big differences. I think there was one Elon tweet about it, and he said it does have big differences or big design changes.
Sorry, one
Okay,
last time.
the Astrogunner is saying there was a large flash just before apogee. Could you say, was it when the engines were still running, or at what point was it? I remember seeing some flash on Everyday Astronaut stream, but I don't think I saw it again.
9. Propellant loading is complete. Next event is retract.
But really, any kind of flash doesn't seem nominal. And also, while going up, there was small fire in the engine bay, but we did see that with SN8 too. So could or couldn't be any problem. No idea about that.
Sorry, you've got a little person that doesn't understand how noise levels work.
Yeah, I don't think the flash was caught on SpaceX's screen, but yeah, it could have had an effect.
I mean, we did see this fire occur in the engine that we've seen a few times, and I know that when it was coming back into land on the SpaceX feed, you can see there is what looks like a fire on the inside of the service engine too.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been some residue oils from the engines burning or really anything, but it didn't look nominal this time. So it's possible it could have done some damage to maybe even the engine that was supposed to fire on landing.
Plus 90 seconds into flight. Everything continues to be nominal with Starship. We're just passing through 3-kilometer altitude.
Can you enable the audio for a second? I mean, the flight audio was great. Or actually turn it up.
Plus 2 minutes.
That audio
Flight
was something
continuing on
that
Starship. As a reminder,
Benno
this is a
will
test
probably
flight to
be
10
using
kilometer
for
altitude.
some of his audio
Engine
works.
number 3 shut down on time as planned. We're continuing to
Benno
climb
likes his crackle,
on
doesn't
2 engines.
He
Everything
does.
continues to go well with Starship.
Good engine performance so far.
Yeah, the Astrogunner, I do agree. There was some coughing with the engine. There was some fire puffs going, but yeah, it didn't fire, and I don't think it produced any thrust at any point.
So no, I
So
seem
I
to
think
have.
on the video we are about at the point where the second engine is turned off.
I know a few people are upset with my audio. I just want to quickly say, I think the microphone unit I've got
shut
might
down.
be acting
T
up.
plus 3 minutes, 20
So I
seconds.
intend on
We've shut down
replacing
engine
it
2 on
at
time.
some point very soon.
You
for
saw that
future
on the
live
screen
streams,
just a
and I
few seconds
apologise.
ago. Starship
It's
now
not going into
climbing on the
Discord
power
versus,
of engine number 1,
OBS very well.
headed to the 10-kilometer altitude.
Well, we haven't had many streams yet, so I think it's pretty normal to have some teething problems.
I think we're more used to pre-recording and being able to edit it and raise my voice in software, etc. But yeah, we will definitely be making improvements to the live
T
streams
plus 4
over the coming
minutes.
months.
Vehicle is at 10 kilometers.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is at apogee. We're continuing to throttle down engine number 1 to hold altitude. We're preparing for handover on the propellant tank.
And yeah, once again, one of the Raptor engines burned over 4 minutes. So
4.5 minutes. We are
having
handing
4-minute
off to
burns
the
with the
launch
engines
tank. We're
is
beginning to
quite
flip the
enough
horizontal.
for the
And the white cloud,
Starship
the plume you were seeing was
booster
intentional.
to
There's a
fly
liquid
the
oxygen
Starship
dump.
to orbit.
We've now transitioned to horizontal and beginning the subsonic test portion of the flight, where we check out the aft and the forward flaps.
It still
Hold the
still
vehicle
looks like a
stability
really
as we
deep
descend
dive.
back to the landing pad.
I mean, it's not hard to see why flat earthers accuse it of being CGI when you see things that, like, your brain just struggles to understand what it's looking at sometimes. And I think the Starship SN, well, the entire Starship architecture really from start to finish has been unique. You know, watching these 8-story towers that were doing the 150-meter hops to the Star Hopper, and now fully fledged starships doing things that your brain can't quite understand sometimes.
T plus 5.5 minutes. Starship
Yeah.
continuing
Well,
the
it's like
subsonic
Elon
descent.
said with
Using
the
forward and
Tesla
aft flaps to
Roadster, you
control
know
its
it's real
attitude
because it looks
as we
so
come back
fake.
down to the landing pad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything continuing to go
Yeah,
well
that
in this
was
portion
when
of flight.
the Tesla Roadster was in space orbiting Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember watching the SN flight and I couldn't believe it.
Land intro.
It was so surreal. SN9 because it was a clone of SN8 flight.
6 minutes, 10 seconds into
Wasn't
flight. We're
that
down beneath
surreal
1.5
anymore.
kilometers. We're
But
preparing
anyway,
to
a
restart
great
2 engines.
great
Flip the vehicle
experience.
vertical, then transition to 1 engine for the
To
landing
answer your
burn.
question, Cohen, I think there is pros and cons to launching at sea. If you're so far out that regulations don't apply, then it's gonna put time onto your journey back and forth to and from the launch pad quite significantly, especially if they're traveling by boats. I think I know Miko and myself have touched on the idea a few times of SpaceX potentially hopping from the Boca Chica site, just a gentle hop over to the Gulf, but that's not, you know, anytime soon. As it stands right now, the regulations just wouldn't allow them to hop and then launch from those platforms, but hopefully we see the regulation change.
Yeah, I think FAA needs to change their procedures. I mean, FAA is just doing their job, but they haven't changed their procedures for a while. I mean, there was some news about allowing faster reflights and such, but I think they still need to work on it. And if you want to hear more about our sea launch and oil rig speculation, we did a deep dive that was released last Friday. We had a guest, Felix from What About It, And if you haven't seen it, go see it now,
Thanks for watching
after
and
this stream.
and we'll be back with another Starship in the near future.
So I think we are gonna wrap this stream up here today, folks. Any closing remarks, Cyclonics or Miko?
Had fun joining you guys. Hope to see you again sometime.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Cyclonics. It was a fun one. And yeah, I hope we will see SN10 fly within a few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
Brilliant. Take care, folks. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Benno just came onto the stream as well. Benno, message me, dude. I'm glad to see you here. Take care, guys.